In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. One of the signs of the vitality of a parish is the number of children and teens who are receiving their sacraments, making their first confessions, receiving First Holy Communion, and receiving the sacrament of confirmation. I'm pleased to report that here in the next 3 weeks or so, we will have nearly 65 children and teens of our parish who are receiving one or more of these sacraments. And that's incredible. It's an incredible sign of vitality and hope for our future. The irony is this very large number comes following a year, and actually more than a year, of terrible adversity which we have had to face. Now, more than a year ago, we were locked out of our churches, and we went to our parking lots. But churches worldwide were shuttered, and many did not go to the parking lots. In some places, in fact, the bishops forbade their priests from doing Mass at all, or from hearing any confessions, baptizing those in need of baptism. In effect, in many places worldwide, the church shut down. But where the church continued in the face of adversity, these churches, these parishes, became all the stronger, and our numbers have swelled. And that's what God does in the face of adversity. He trumps it, if you will, with a greater good. And that's what you'll find. You'll find in our local church, you'll find in our nation and in the world, in those places where pastors and the faithful took risks and faced the adversity, they have become stronger and larger in number. But in a majority of places which simply closed the doors of the church and shut down the sacraments and rolled over in the face of the threat, they have become soft and fewer in number. And this cannot be blamed on a virus. Humanity has faced far worse viruses and plagues and threats to life and health over its long history. Perhaps more than anything, this can be attributed to shepherds laying down their croziers, that is, their shepherd's staff, the sign of their authority and their responsibility and service, laying them down in the face of the wolves. The wolves being government, globalists, and so-called experts, who demanded, or at least urged, churches to be locked, and the faithful denied the practice of religion. We had an exception here in the local church, where our shepherd and the shepherds of this state took up their croziers and planted them firmly and said, "No more." In the face of a tyrannical executive order, the churches would remain locked while businesses and recreation opened up. Our bishops said, "No more. They publicly defied the wolves and said, we are going back into our churches on Pentecost, regardless of what you will do to us. Can you imagine if bishops across the face of this nation, across the face of the earth, and to the highest levels had done the same from the start, had stood firm with their croziers and said no. But instead, most of them put their croziers on the ground, they drove the sheep out of the folds, and they piled rocks over the entryway. And instead of being good shepherds, they said, we will be Zoom shepherds. We will Zoom you the Mass. Don't worry. You can remain safely at home. I am the Zoom shepherd. Imagine what a difference that could have been made if the shepherds had stood firm against the wolves. And I don't expect it to get any better. In fact, a bad omen and reality is only 2 weeks away, in which the Vatican will be hosting an international conference titled A Global Healthcare Initiative. Why is the Vatican even getting involved in something of this nature? A global healthcare initiative. And some of those great stars, luminaries, who have been invited by the Vatican to speak at this conference include our friend Dr. Anthony Fauci, a man that we had to listen to day after day after day now for weeks, months, and over a year, who at one point scolded us against masks and said, you don't need masks, don't wear masks, they're unhealthy. And a few weeks later he was saying, everyone should wear a mask. And then a few weeks after that, we need to double mask. Everyone should be wearing 2 masks. This is the man who was photographed, by the way, in a very populated stadium, sports stadium at an event, surrounded by people with no mask on his face. We've had enough of Fauci. Give us Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, or Dr. Frankenstein. Enough of Fauci. Another luminary that's been invited by the Vatican, Chelsea Clinton. Well, Chelsea certainly has much to instruct the shepherds of the church and the faithful. Chelsea Clinton, who is alleged to have affiliations or at least sympathies with the Church of Satan. Frankly, if I never see or hear another word from any Clinton the rest of my life, I will be oh so relieved. And then we have the CEOs of 2 of the big pharma companies that are now raking in billions of dollars as they administer abortion-derived injections. CEOs of Pfizer and Moderna. There's a long list of over 100 that includes big tech and others. And what do these people have in common? Well, it's not Catholicism. It's not the faith. Oh, and by the way, moderators for this event will include representatives from CNN, MSNBC, and Forbes. What do all of these have in common? Pro-abortion, pro-population control, pro-LGBT, pro-globalization, and for the most part, godless. They have much in common. And I think what is most revealing, at least graphically, is the logo or poster for this event. It is a parody, a sad parody. On the fresco painting in the Sistine Chapel, done by the great Michelangelo, in which the most dominant feature is the hand of God, the finger of God reaching out and toward the hand of Adam, the two fingers about to touch. It's a reminder that our existence and our life comes from God. A parody on that is the logo of this conference, in which two human hands that are surgically gloved are pointing to each other. Boy, that says much. During this past year plus, now and into the future, we should have been looking and pointing to God, who is the source of our existence and the source of our life, to see our way through any crisis or any time without a crisis. And instead, we have been listening to experts who are now serving as our shepherds. The croziers have been handed to Fauci and Chelsea and CEOs to lead us. And they have a purely human solution, a finger pointing at a finger. It's pure humanism. So, my friends, the church in some places is stronger than ever, but widely is weaker than perhaps in any age past in the face of adversity. We can only wish and pray for a change. We can only wish and pray that our shepherds would take up their croziers, that our shepherds would stand watch, that shepherds everywhere would reopen the fold to the flock. They would use those croziers to guide us and protect us, and that our shepherds would walk in the footsteps of the Good Shepherd.